أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Can you hear me okay? The Almighty in Quran says that whatever has been created, it has been created for you. خَلَقَ لَكُمْ, that is for the human beings. Elsewhere in another ayah says سَخَّرَ لَكُمْ, that whatever you see in the creation, Allah has given it or left it at your disposal. So everything is for mankind. Everything has been created for you. So if everything has been created for the human beings, then what has the human being been created for? There says that Allah, He created man and jinn for servitude, for worship, to be obedient to the Almighty Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Now when you see that everything has been created for you and you have been created for a purpose, this entire creation also, there is a purpose it has been created for. If we say that there hasn't been any purpose and mankind has been created for no reason, so you just step into this world, you are born and then live and do whatever you want and then you come to an end with no purpose. That is against the purpose. Then when He has created everything for mankind and He has sent guides and envoys, ambassadors and prophets for the guidance of mankind, and then He has said, I've made you, I've shown you the path, I've guided you, and there is an end result, and that is on the Day of Judgment you will see what you have done, how the performance was. If it was good, He will reward, and if it was bad, He will punish. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the best of all the ambassadors that Allah has sent, best of all the prophets. And you see that Rasulullah, how obedient and how submissive he was to the Almighty. Obedient to Allah in all walks of life. He worshipped the most. And Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam, he says that every day he used to wake up before Fajr, he used to look at the skies and he used to recite this ayah. It's the ayah number 190 from Surah Al Imran, that he used to look at the skies and he used to say, Inna fi khalq as-samawati wal ard wa ikhtilaf al-layli wan nahar la ayatin li ulil albab. That is, Rasulullah, he wakes up every night, he looks at the sky every night, and then he recites this ayah that Inna fi khalq as-samawati wal ard, indeed in the creation of the skies and the earth, wa ikhtilaf al-layli wan nahar, and the alternation of night and day. You see how beautiful the whole system is. He has created the skies and the earth, and then the night it falls, and then the day it takes over the night, and again the night falls. So there is this alternation, night and day, night and day. Says alternation of night and day, all these are signs for those who possess intellect. That you look into these signs and then you say that الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا, and they are, these people, they remember Allah while standing, while sitting, and whilst they are asleep and they are on their sides, they constantly remember Allah. And what do they say? They constantly remember the Almighty, they reflect, and they say that يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, and they say رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا, that God, you haven't created all of this in vain. You have created the skies for a purpose. You've created the earth for a purpose. You've created the alternation of night and day for a purpose. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Allah, protect us from the fire. So when he says protect us from the fire, means belief in the day of judgment. Belief in the day of judgment. So he has created everything for you. Everything has been created with a purpose, and the purpose is worshipping the Almighty, to being obedient to Him, being within the parameters that He has laid and made, and the parameters also have been set by the prophets that He has sent. So the whole program has been made for you, for a purpose, and that it hasn't been created in vain. And then he says, فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ, Allah, protect me from the fire. So, the entire creation you see Allah has made, there's no flaw in it. Everything has been created in such a wonderful way. No flaw whatsoever. Mankind has been created in the best of forms, not just mankind of a certain region. No. Allah says in Quran, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We created mankind in the best of forms. May he be the human being of the Caribbean, may he be of the Middle East, may he be of the North America, of the European, Rome, wherever, Arab origin, whatever human being you see, Allah says we have created him in the best form. There isn't any flaw in it. So when He has created this creation with such magnificence, with no flaw in it, so we have to be thankful to Him. That is, before we want something, He provides. Now the best example that you can give over here, it's a baby. A baby, when he is born, he needs so much of care, so much of looking after, food and drink, and then comfort, hygiene, changing, everything. The baby is totally dependent, cannot do whatever he wants. If a fly comes and sits on his nose, he cannot even swap the fly. He's that much unable. So here, that care that you see around a baby, Allah has made that arrangement before he is born. The baby needs milk. Before the baby is born, the milk is already available in the mother, so that when the baby steps in to this world, he is provided, he is taken care of. So all this is made in such a magnificent, in a beautiful way. All these different parts of the body that He has given to us, for example, this hand and all the different movements, all of the fingers. There was an article a few months ago, they said that the best of robots, there are certain actions they can do, but the hand that you see, the actions that this one hand can perform, is far more than what a robot can do. Now the tissues, the cells, the skin, he's left some loose skin over here, some loose skin on the joints, so that the movement of the fingers can be easy. It can go in all directions. So if we assume that there wasn't any loose skin over here, this finger, it wouldn't bend. The teeth that we have, every teeth of a different size, of a different shape, with a different purpose. The front teeth to bite some things, the side teeth, the canines, to bite something that is harder like meat, etc. The rear teeth, the molars he has given so that you can chew. If all the teeth were even, all of the same shape, of the same size, and then you see in the teeth also there are all these ups and downs, the grooves that help chew the food and then prepare it and send it to the stomach for digestion. If all the teeth were flat, glazed, of the same shape, then all day you would be chewing and chewing and nothing would happen. That food wouldn't break, it wouldn't crush, you couldn't swallow. See how beautiful he has created the teeth, the different parts of the body. Eyes, for example. Nowadays they go and do these surgeries and remove this cuticle which is in the inner part of the eye. They say it's against the beauty. There is a purpose for that as well. They don't know what it is now. Maybe down the road they will come to a conclusion that that is also required. That Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He hasn't created anything in vain, or anything has been created as waste. No, everything has been created with a purpose, with wisdom. So when you see that everything, there is so much of persistence, there is so much of wisdom in the entire creation, then the Creator, how wise He would be. That is beyond our understanding. That if He is being so kind to me before I step into this world, now regardless of how, if a person is faithful, if he is faithless, that doesn't matter. But He provides to everyone. Now in these du'as that we recite in the sacred month of Rajab, we say that, he who gives to someone who calls Him, and He gives to someone who does not call Him. He gives to someone who knows Him, and He gives even to someone who does not know Him. So He gives, He provides, He is that merciful, He is that Rahman. Among the provisions that He has given, and the best of all provisions, is guidance. Guidance is through the prophets, and prophets are the best of His men, or His creation. Now if He wants to give a task to someone, you yourself, you can look into your own performance. If you do certain job and you won't be able to carry out that job the next day, you find someone suitable, fit for that job. If you are a teacher and you cannot take the class, you just don't leave the class, and you do not abandon the class, because it's going to be a chaos, and it is a zulm, bad for the students and for yourself. So you make arrangements to find someone suitable who can represent you in your absence. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He is present, and for the purpose that He has created mankind for, and that is for worship, for servitude, for obedience, He needs to send guides. And there is no time in the history of mankind that He has abandoned mankind even for one moment. So the first one He created is Adam, and he is the guide of the Almighty Allah, a representative of Allah for the guidance of mankind. And the term of Prophet Adam comes to an end. Immediately there is another representative who is available, who takes over the charge. And then 124,000 He sends. The same thing when Rasulullah, his term, his life is to come to an end, immediately he has made arrangements for the task to be taken over by his other envoy, and that is Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. And this day and age, his guide, his representative is Imam al-Asr, Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. So guidance is always there. So you may have doubts in your mind, doesn't matter, those doubts need to be removed. And if those doubts are not removed, they become dangerous, they become cancerous. So to get to yaqeen, to get to certainty, you will definitely have doubts. That doesn't matter. So those doubts need to be cleared. Even when you're making something, you're building a house, or you're making, designing something, there are so many tests and errors that you go through, so many trials that you go through. There are so many problems you will see in something that you are making until you come to a final stage where you've understood it. The same thing is with deen. In deen also you will have all different kinds of questions in your mind. You'll have all these different doubts. So ask and get a solution, an answer to those doubts, so that you understand what really it is. One of the things that helps a lot is are the ayat of Quran. This ayah that I just recited, that Rasulullah, he wakes up every night, and now Amirul Mu'mineen says that when I asked the Prophet, would you like to return to this dunya, and if you did, why would you want to return? He says that to offer the night prayers. So that he used to love that, adore and enjoy prayers, that is standing before the Almighty and worshipping Him, praising Him, lauding Him. So how does he start this worship? Looking at the skies. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. In the creation of the skies and the earth, the alternation of night and day, there are signs for those who possess intellect. Now, signs, everything is a sign. Ayah in Arabic means sign. Ayats means signs. Now, you've got these disasters like earthquake, eclipse, tornadoes, or landslides, etc. All these natural disasters, they're also signs. So what happens in these signs when a disaster unfolds upon us, like what has happened in Turkey, in Iran, in Syria, the earthquake. So thousands have been hit. So what the first thing that comes to them is, when they see these pains and disasters, they return and they turn to God and ask Him for mercy, for forgiveness, for leniency, for kindness. So the earthquake is a sign that drew him to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, that in those problems he turned and he switched to the Almighty. So that is why we have namaz-e-ayat. Namaz-e-ayat means the prayer you offer when there is a natural disaster. So ayah means signs. Likewise, now in these disasters, generally everyone turns to God when he sees so much of pain and mishap. So here, these ayat that we have in Quran, they also do the same job. If you ponder, if you try to understand what the ayat are saying. Here the ayah says, in the creation of the skies and the earth, the alternation of night and day. They're all signs for those who possess intellect. Who are they who possess intellect? Who remember Allah whilst they are standing, whilst they are sitting, whilst they are lying down on their sides. They still remember Allah. Like these Wi-Fi signals, if you have, and you've got a device that gets connected, so constantly and at all times, these people who have intellect, they are connected to the Almighty. Now when they are connected to the Almighty, what do? يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. They think in the creation of the skies and the earth. How beautiful He has created. Now from here to whatever part of the sky you can see, we are still within the first sky. Millions of miles from there, wherever you travel to, you are still within the first sky. And there are 7 skies altogether. So how vast this area is, no one can ever think of. And the Almighty, He has created. Or elsewhere says that He has created 7 earths. So this one that we are living, it's just one of them. 7 earths, where are they? How vast are they? What are they? How do they look like? No one knows. It's all unknown, but He has created them. So those who have intellect, they remember Allah whilst they are standing, whilst they are sitting, whilst they lie down, and they ponder in the creation of the skies and the earth, and they say, God, you haven't created all of this in vain. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And Allah, protect us from the fire. So look into these ayats whenever you get time. When you recite a surah, try to understand the ayah and see how beautiful everything becomes. And with these signs and with these ayats, we get closer and closer to Allah. This was a little bit about the Aqaid side. So belief in the one God, looking at the beautiful creation, and then coming to this conclusion that our creation has not been a waste, nor have been created for no purpose. There is a purpose. And the purpose is to look into yourself and then come to yourself and then see what your origin was, where have you come from, and where are you heading to. Come from Allah, returning to Allah. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Now, from the Ahkam, and that is the laws that we have for the practical side of our deen, and that is namaz, salat, fasts, hajj, zakat, the furu'ud deen at large. The first one, we talked about taqleed in the past few sessions, that a person, he has to be either a mujtahid, that is, he be able to derive the rules from Quran and Sunnah, and if he cannot, then he has to follow a mujtahid. Now after that we have performed taqleed, and we are in taqleed of a living mujtahid, we look into the Ahkam. The first chapter is taharat. Taharat means purification. And in Islam, for this taharat, there is the most emphasis. First taharat, it's the spiritual tahara, and that is when you say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Spiritually, a person, he becomes tahir, he is clean, he is pure. Now, certain situations, they come in his life when he gets in contact with things that are impure, he becomes najis. So in that case, he has to clean himself, that is, wash himself, and there are various ways how you can perform this tahara, and mostly, and the best of all of them, it's water. So water is among the mutahhirat, means among those that purifies, and then the sun, it purifies, dust, it purifies, dirt, it purifies, and these are some of the mutahhirat. So tahara means purification. Says that, like you've heard in English, cleanliness is next to godliness. That is, the more clean a person is, the closer he is to the Almighty. Messy, dirty, untidy a person is, then you can make see that how distant and away he becomes from the Almighty Allah because of that. So tahara, Allah in the Quran says, Ma yuridullahu liyaj'ala alaykum min haraj walakin yuridu liyutahhirakum. Allah doesn't want to afflict a pain on you by all these rules that we have, that when He wants you to wash yourself, clean yourself, hygiene and taharat rules to observe, ghusl and wuzu to be done for your prayers, for your wajibat. This is not that He is afflicting a pain on you. He is not burdening you. Allah, He says that I want you to be clean. لِيُطَهِّرَكُمْ, I want to purify you. وَلِيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, and I want to bestow my blessings further upon you. For that reason, I have made these things obligated, an obligation upon you. Now, taharat, these purification rules that we have, we need them in 3 phases. First of all, the muqaddimat, and then muqarinat, and then it's the mubtilat. You have to know. Muqaddimat means as an introduction. You need taharat as an introduction, purification, like you want to offer your prayers. So prior to prayers, there are certain things to be done. That is, my dress code be clean, my body be clean, and the place where I want to stand and offer my prayers, that has to be clean, that has to be lawful. And then I have to perform a wuzu. That wuzu will further purify my soul, and now that I've been purified, my body, my dress, the place I want to stand and worship, then I've performed a wuzu or a ghusl. Now I've been given the permit, the license to communicate to the Almighty. So to communicate to Allah, some etiquettes to observe, as they were mentioned. Now that I've got the introductory wajibat observed, the next phase is that throughout this worship, from the point I start my prayers, I say Takbiratul Ihram, Allahu Akbar, until the last takbir after salam. That is, there are certain things I have to abide by, I have to observe throughout this worship. Now what are they? That is, I have to do the recitation of the surahs, perform ruku, and then stand up, go to sajda, and the entire process has to be observed in all the raka'at. And then finally there are certain things that would invalidate this worship of mine. May that be taharat, or may that be the prayers. So the moment I say Allahu Akbar, I have to be focused, I have to be firm, until I conclude and bring the namaz to an end. So anything that would tamper this format that he has asked me to perform, that would invalidate my prayers. Now, in taharat, that is purification, the first thing is wuzu. Wuzu, it has to be done with water, pure water, and water which is not mixed with anything, water which is halal, meaning that it is lawful, it hasn't been stolen, or it has with the consent and permission of the person who owns that water. This wuzu has to be done. So in wuzu also there are certain things that to observe, that this vessel in which I am going to perform wuzu with, if it's a tap, yeah, that's fine, it's lawful and I do it. But if it's a vessel like a vessel made of gold, real silver, and you pour water in it and then you want to perform wuzu, that wuzu is going to be batil. So you cannot drink from a vessel that is made of gold or silver, or you cannot perform wuzu from a vessel that is made of gold or silver. That is haram, forbidden on everyone, men and women. So you can't even use cutlery and crockery that is made of real gold and silver for your eating and your daily purposes, and you cannot even use them to perform wuzu or ghusl, that you are taking that vessel that is made of gold, and then you are taking water and you're washing yourself. That washing also is haram. So it's going to be batil. So in wuzu, now wuzu also has been mentioned in Quran. Allah says that I want you to purify yourself. How do you purify? Says you wash your face, and then you wash your right hand, and then you wash your left hand, and with the remaining dampness or wetness in your hands, you will wipe your head, and then you will wipe your right foot and the upper area of the left foot. So that is the entire wuzu. In all actions that we perform, a niyyah is required. Niyyah means I'm doing this action qurbatan ilallah, to seek the nearness of the Almighty God. So when you're rushing to perform wuzu, the intention should be there, that I'm doing this wuzu qurbatan ilallah. Without an intention, everything you do is batil. May that be prayers, may that be taharat, whatever it is, you have to have that mindset that I'm performing this to seek the nearness of the Almighty God, to get closer to Him. That is, there's such a big distance between us and the Almighty. And with all these observances, with all these prayers and fasts and recitation of Quran, services that you offer, you get closer to Allah. By being good to others, you get closer to Allah. And that is the aim. So a person, when he's in the early days of his bulugh, compared to someone who has reached an old age, there is a whole lot of experience that he has achieved in his late age compared to someone who has just started. Now the same way, the distance this person in the early stages has before the Almighty, it may be huge and vast. But as a result of that servitude and worship, the other person who is in his late years of his life, you find that he has sought that proximity and closeness to the Almighty. That is why we say qurbatan ilallah, to seek the nearness of Allah. In all actions, that has to be there. In your wuzu, in your ghusl, in your prayers, in your fast, in du'as that you recite, and if it's education and you are a teacher, when you want to teach, just have that intention that God, to serve your creation, to serve these young children, I am performing this duty, I am giving my time, qurbatan ilallah. So whatever you do, and as long as you are occupied in that service, it will all be written and classified as worship. So make it a habit that I am doing it qurbatan ilallah. Just like wuzu that you do, I am performing my wuzu qurbatan ilallah, I am teaching qurbatan ilallah, I am educating qurbatan ilallah, I am learning qurbatan ilallah. If it's your household chores that you have, washing dishes, cleaning, laundry, whatever it is. So if you have that intention that I'm doing it qurbatan ilallah, to help your creation, to serve your creation, you will be rewarded for that, and all of that will be worship. So first it's wuzu. In wuzu, there are certain things that are mustahab, and then there are certain things that are wajib, and then haram as well. Like, I want to start my wuzu, I wash my hands 3 times, and that is mustahab. And then I take that water and I rinse my mouth, that is also mustahab 3 times. And then I rinse my nose, that is also mustahab 3 times. So gargling your mouth, rinsing your nose, all this is mustahab. Now we come to the wajib part of the wuzu, that is the face, from where your hair grows all the way downwards. So in wuzu, we have to be careful that we, as the followers of Shias, the followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the wuzu format, it's downwards. You wash your face from the hairline downwards to your chin. And then you wash your hands from your elbow downwards until the tip of your fingers. Now that you want to wash your face from where your hair grows, don't be very precise that exactly from where my hairline starts, I'm going to go downwards. That way, maybe you've missed that hairline. So go a little bit high above and start coming downwards so that you are certain that you've washed your face. The same thing is with your hands. When you want to wash your hands from your elbow downwards, you don't need to have a mark that this is where my elbow starts from and I won't go any higher. I'll go downwards from that line. No. If you do that, you are not certain that you have covered your elbow. So go a little higher above your elbow and bring it downwards here like that until the tip of your fingers. And then from inside also it's the same thing, that until the tip of your fingers. The other thing in wuzu is that when you pour water on your face, that water, it should flow down a little bit. So you can't take a wipe or a tissue, a napkin, and then just dip it in water and then pat it on your skin. That is not wuzu. Wuzu means you have to take water, pour it on your face, and it should drip down. It should flow down. That is when it is that indication that the wuzu is fine. The same thing is on your hands. From your elbow, when you pour water, it has to run down. Now that running of that water Not that it has to start from there and come all the way to the tip of your finger. No. When you pour water, if it runs down a little bit, a few centimeters, just that running of those droplets is seen, that is enough. And then you just spread that water all over your hand and then between your fingers, so that you are certain you've done your wuzu. Now when you're washing your face and then this corner of your eyes, when you wake up in the morning, you get tears that have dried up. Now when you're doing wuzu, you have to be cautious and careful that you've made water reach the corner of your eyes, so that if you haven't done that and you've done your wuzu and you see there's all these dried tears, then that wuzu has to be redone, because in wuzu every part of the surface that has to be washed, that is the face and the two hands, every part of it has to reach, if even as little as a pin drop, that is the size of a needle pin, that much, if you're certain that water hasn't reached there, that wuzu is batil. So that is why you have to be careful when you're performing wuzu, that properly make that water reach all of the area of your face and your right and your left hands. Now the first time that you wash your face is wajib. Now how do you know it's the first time? First time doesn't mean that just one splash of water. Yeah, if the skin condition of mine is not too dry, it's a normal skin and a skin that doesn't take so much of water, then maybe the first splash on my face, water has reached and I could make that water reach all over that area. So that will be one. But sometimes the skin is so dry that when you pour water on the skin, it just dries up immediately. So you need 2-3 splashes of water for it to cover the entire space, for you to be able to rub and cover the face. So in that case, if it's a lot of water you need, it will be counted as one. For normal skin, maybe the first one that I pour on my face is sufficient for the water to get to all parts of the face. In the second example, if the skin is dry, you need a lot more water, 2-3 splashes. So those 2-3 splashes will be counted as the first one. And then it is mustahab to take water and then wash your face again for the second time. So in the second example of dry skin, the second time will be again 3-4 splashes of water. In the first example, the first time is just one splash. The second time, which is mustahab, is also just one splash of water on your face. If someone pours water for the third time, that is haram, and wuzu also will be batil. So you have to do that wuzu again, redo it. One of the other things is that when you start an action like wuzu, you have to complete it. You just cannot abandon it. I went to the washroom and I started my wuzu, I've washed my face, now I let it go and then I'll do it later. You can't do that. When you've started doing wuzu, you have to end it. You have to do the wiping of the head and your feet, and only then will that wuzu come to an end. Just like namaz, your prayers, when you've said your takbiratul ihram, you have to continue until you end and conclude the prayers in the right way. If it's Fajr, after 2 rakats and then Salam, and then you finish your prayers. If it's Maghrib, 3. If it's Asr and Isha and Zohr, it's 4 rak'at. So you cannot abandon or let go these actions when you have started them. So the first time pouring water on your face is wajib, second time mustahab, third time is haram, and wuzu will be batil. The same thing is on your hands. You're pouring water, taking water from the tap with your left hand, pouring water on above your elbow of the right hand. The first time it is wajib, the second time it is mustahab, and the third time it will be haram and the wuzu will be batil. Then you perform mas, that is without taking any extra water. You wash your right hand, and then you take that right hand and take water and wash your left hand from the elbow all the way downwards, and there is this dampness that has remained in my hand. With that dampness, with that wetness, I will perform the wiping of my head, and then I will perform the wiping of my feet. Right hand, right foot, left hand, left foot. Now, if you take extra water after you washed your left hand, that is also batil. You cannot do that. So no extra water. So you close the tap when you're washing your left hand and then wiping it. You just close the tap. With the remaining water, you perform your mas, that is wiping of your head and your feet. Now sometimes what happens is, maybe it's so the heating is on, or the blowers are working, or the temperatures are very hot, so your hands, they dry up. You don't have any water in your hands to perform the wiping of your head and your feet. So in these cases, you cannot take extra water. If you take it, then that's an additional water, and wuzu is going to be batil. So with the water that is on your face, or the water that has remained in the wuzu areas that you have just washed, so you borrow water from your face, and then your hand is wet now, there are some droplets of water. With that you will wipe your head. Now again, if it's dried up, then you borrow some water from your left hand, and then you perform the mas of your right foot. And if this hand is also dry, you borrow water either from your face, that is your beard, or your hand, right hand, and then you get the dampness, and with that dampness you will perform the mas of your head and feet. With this wuzu that you have done, that is these simple tips that you've observed, with this wuzu you can touch Quran, you can recite, you can offer your prayers, you can recite Quran, you can perform tawaf with this wuzu that you have observed and you have performed. Now when you are performing the wiping of your head, the minimum is one finger. That is, if you have a hairline, you can just make your hands vertical like that, and then go either backwards on your head, or you come forwards, downwards, whichever is easier for you, you can perform the mas with. So the minimum is the narrow side of your fingers, you go that way, and the maximum is 4 fingers. That is, you bring your 4 fingers down on your head, or you can also do it this way. Either you bring it that way, or you have your hand sideways, and then you can go from your hairline backwards. Okay, now if the hair is too long, and sometimes people, they want to cover the bald patch, they bring the hair from the 2 sides on the top of their head. So there you cannot perform mas. Mas has to be done on the scalp, or on the hair that is grown on the scalp. So if the hair is too long, then you cannot perform your mas on that long hair. So here you have to go on your scalp, on the skin of your scalp. Either you open a hairline, and in the hairline you perform your mas. You go either backwards or you come forward. Minimum is the side of your fingers, that is 1 finger. That is the minimum width of mas, and the maximum is 4 fingers. So these 4 fingers, if you're going backwards or you want to come forward, doesn't matter. It can be this part of your 4 fingers, that is, you perform the mas of your head. If you don't want to use this part of your finger, then it is the edge of your fingers that are wet. With that you perform the wiping of your head. Now it isn't as such that the mas wiping, it has to be soaking wet. No, when you perform your mas, you see a few droplets, very tiny droplets of water on your scalp. That mas is complete and it is correct. So after that you perform the wiping of your feet. It's the same thing. In the wiping of the feet also, you start from your toe, and then you come upwards until the joint of your foot, the upper joint. So that is mustahab. Now over here also, in your wiping of your feet, the minimum is as much as your forefinger. So it's about 4 inches. That is the minimum. That is, you put your hand and then you stretch a little bit. Maybe you stretched half a centimeter or 1 centimeter. Your mas is correct. So just placing your hand on the foot, that is not enough. You have to place your hand on the foot and then you have to pull your hand towards the joint of the top of your foot. That is the ankle of your foot. So that is how you have to perform, from the toe until the ankle. That is wajib. Now minimum again it's 1 finger, and then maximum it is 4 fingers. Mustahab is that you place your hand on the toes like that, and then you open it and drag it towards the ankle. That is mustahab, if you want to observe and abide by the mustahabat of that wuzu. So these were some of the rules that we talked about. Wuzu, with this wuzu you can perform your prayer, offer your prayers. With this wuzu you can touch the Holy Quran, the names of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and you can perform tawaf, and any prayer, wajib, mustahab, can be done. Now if you specify a wuzu, like for example I'm doing wuzu, I say that I'm performing this wuzu to recite Quran. So you've specified a wuzu for a certain task. So with that wuzu, you cannot do anything else. You cannot offer your prayers with that wuzu. You cannot perform tawaf with that wuzu. If you have specified in your niyyah that I'm doing this wuzu exclusively to recite Quran. So with that I can't do anything else. Only Quran I can recite. So have your wuzus open-ended. That is, you just say, I'm performing it qurbatan ilallah, and with that open wuzu you can perform and do whatever you want. Wa subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad wa ajil